Welcome back, guys. My name is Angie. This is Angie Fully Booked, and today, in honor of the upcoming Hunger Games prequel coming out to the big screen, I'm going to do a full trailer breakdown of this movie. There will be spoilers ahead, so turn back now if you don't want to be spoiled. Our first shot is a wide shot of the Academy, the high school that our main character, 17-year-old Coriolanus Snow, who will become President Snow, the dictator of Panem, in the later films, attends as an elite member of District 1, though his family has fallen into poverty after the family patriarch, Coriolanus's father, General Caius Snow, a key strategist and decorative war hero of the capital, was killed fighting in the brutal civil war against the rest of the districts, known as the Dark Days, that District 1 is still recovering from. Desperate to maintain the illusion that his family still maintains their former wealth and power and keep himself out of poverty, Snow was determined to return his family name to its former glory by whatever means necessary, taking comfort in his family motto when he doubts himself: Snow lands on top. Next scene we have is our introduction to Dr. Volumnia Gall, announcing the introduction of Caius Highbottom. Now, we'll get back to Gall later, but the only thing you need to know about her right now is that she's the head game maker in charge of the bioengineering department of the Hunger Games and is a complete sociopath. The next scene is a wide shot scene where we see a gathering of the 10th annual Hunger Games mentors being announced by Dr. Gall. Now, what makes this Hunger Games different from previous iterations, and pretty much the entirety of Snow's motivation throughout this movie, is the several $1 million cash prize that will be awarded to the mentor of the tribute who wins these games. As Snow in his house is a hair's breadth away from poverty and thus dropping further into the lower classes of the districts, winning these games is incredibly important to him. These games are also where we're going to see the creation and implementation of a lot of the crueler, more sadistic elements of Katniss's Hunger Games 64 years later, largely piloted by Dr. Gall and Snow. Next scene we get an introduction into Casa Highbottom, the man largely credited with the intellectual creation of the Hunger Games, who is an incredibly cynical man and morphine addict. Getting into any further details with him would be massive spoilers, but needless to say, pay attention to him when you watch this movie. Next scene, we get a close-up shot of Snow sitting next to his primary competition as mentor throughout these games, Clemencia Dovecot. These two don't really like each other because they're essentially two peas in a pod, and Snow is uncomfortable with anyone who makes him feel like he's looking into a mirror or is intellectually inferior. Next scene, we see a reaping of the first two 10th annual Hunger Games tributes, from what I imagine is District 2 and 3, before being immediately introduced to the District 12 female tribute, Lucy Gray Bard, who bows sardonically towards the camera with a pinched mouth and murder in her eyes. Now, there's some fan speculation that Lucy may be Katniss's paternal grandmother, but for the most part, that's speculation. She's incredibly charming, smart, and calculating, and she actively challenges Snow to think about the ethical and moral long-term consequences of the actions he's taking and the things he believes beyond just how they affect him. Next, we see a scared Lucy and the other tributes being delivered from their districts to the capital in a cattle car, dehydrated, hungry, and sleep-deprived. This scene really illustrates the level of dehumanization the class system does to the people who live under Panem's oligarchical dictatorship, and how the people of the capital genuinely do not see the other districts as human. Next scene is a close-up shot of Snow glaring down at an unknown person who's probably Casa, before switching to a wide shot of the capital train pulling the cattle cars with the tributes on them into the station, before switching to another close-up shot of Snow looking down contemplatively at a white rose in his hand. Now, the white rose is for Lucy when she gets off the train, and Snow's entire plan from this point on is to charm Lucy, who he believes is unintelligent, into falling in love with him so he can use her for his own success. The next scene we have Casa about to have a fascinating discussion with Snow about the morality and ethics of the Hunger Games, before jumping back to a close-up shot of Snow presenting Lucy with the rose, which she is unimpressed by. Snow is put off by this, but tries to brush it off and come across as charming, but instead comes across as vaguely unhinged. Next, we have a scene of Lucy, Snow, and the other tributes and mentors being led through a red-lit corridor into the Colosseum that the 10th annual Hunger Games will be held. Snow grabs Lucy's hand for moral support, and together they both gaze up in shock and awe at what the game makers have managed to create. Next scene, we have a close-up shot of Lucy looking terrified and determined as she either plans to run toward the cornucopia or away from Reaper, one of the other tributes. Next, we have our first scene of Lucky Flickerman and the Capital Mentors gazing up at television screens with the tributes' faces on them, and then another close-up shot of Lucy, Lucky, announcing to the world the start of the 10th annual Hunger Games. Next, we have a wide-shot scene of the Roman arena the tributes will be fighting in, and then another scene of Lucy and the other tributes preparing to start the games. Next, we have a close-up shot of a worried tigress gazing anxiously up at the television screen while clasping her hands together, and then another scene of a scared Lucy Gray Bard as she's raced up into the arena from her underground platform in preparation for the games to begin. Next scene, we have a close-up shot of an anxious Snow shouting, "Run," as the horn announces the start of the Hunger Games, and all of the tributes except Lucy run toward the cornucopia. Now it's time to talk about Dr. Gall. As stated before, Gall is the head game maker in charge of the bioengineering department of the Hunger Games, and she has a very interesting relationship with Snow, acting a mentor towards the young man as she tries to convince him of the necessity of the Hunger Games within Panem society, believing that humans are at our core fundamentally evil and animalistic, and that the authoritarian government of Panem provides much-needed control in a world that would otherwise be chaos. Next, we see the District 2 tribute Reaper attacking Lucy, who swiftly dodges out of the way before hiding in a sewer drain full of rats. Next, we see her helping her male tribute from District 12 escape some other tribute who are chasing them, and then a close-up shot of Reaper calmly walking toward the Capitol flag before ripping it off of the wall in a fit of rage and dragging it across the Colosseum floor before incoherently screaming at the cameras. Next, we have a wide shot of Snow arriving by train as a peacekeeper in District 12, before cutting to another shot of Snow and Lucy walking and talking in the sunlight, trying to escape the districts, before cutting to a scene of Snow returning to District 1 and staring at the shattered ruins of the Colosseum. Next, we have a shot of a younger, more optimistic Snow drenched in red before cutting to a cleaner cut, more controlled and realistic Snow, highlighting how his decisions as a mentor in the Hunger Games and his time in military service as a peacekeeper has changed him. Next, we have a scene of Snow watching Billy Tope, Lucy Gray's boyfriend, being dragged away by peacekeepers while he stands and watches, before cutting to a completely unhinged Snow shooting a machine gun into the trees. Next, we have yet another scene of Snow and Casa glaring at one another before cutting to a scene of Snow, Lucy, and her family walking through a summer field toward a lake in District 12. Next, we have a close-up shot of Snow and Lucy swimming together before cutting to a wider shot of the entire group swimming together. Next, we have a scene of Lucy singing to Snow in a tavern while he smiles, and then the whole tavern starts dancing, before cutting to an interview scene of Lucky and Lucy either before or after her time in the Hunger Games. Next, we have a scene of Tigress and Snow talking about the meaning of life, with Tigress saying winning isn't everything and Snow snapping back that it absolutely is, before cutting to a scene of Dr. Gall giving a tour of her laboratory to the mentors, showing off her genetically modified venomous snakes to Snow and Clemencia. Next, we have a scene of Serjanus loudly protesting the immorality of the Hunger Games, while Dr. Gall watches on, laughing maniacally as her poisonous snakes kill people. Next, we have a scene of Snow as a peacekeeper marching through District 12, and then another shot of Snow walking calmly through Dr. Gall's laboratory. Next, we have another scene of Snow as a peacekeeper strapping a machine gun over his shoulder, before a final shot of a victorious Snow looking up at a statue of the blind Lady Justice, clean cut and ready to conquer the world, before a flashback scene of Lucy Gray showing her cousin a snake, while a shirtless Snow watches warily onward. And that was my recap of this trailer. I am absolutely ecstatic for this movie to come out. I absolutely love The Hunger Games and think they're phenomenally well-written books and absolutely masterfully well adapted movies. I absolutely cannot wait for this next installment to come